The Working Artist Project is brought to you by Second Line Arts Collective. Learn how you can support at secondlinearts.org.
We're creating a platform for those who are curious, one that tells the story from the artist's perspective. Moments in time, captured from the innovators who are reshaping dance, music, theater, and the visual arts. This is the Working Artist Project.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Welcome to the Working Artist Project. My name is Darrian Douglas, and we are here once again with the one and only Gregory Agid. What up, Greg?
Man, thank you very much for the introduction. I appreciate that very much. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. I just can't stop thinking about you being a French Hawaiian, man. I'm just taking it back a couple weeks, man. I don't know, man. It just makes me happy, man. I don't know.
Hey, look, it makes me happy too, because I'm unique. It used to be a big source of an identity crisis, but you know, we moved past that in my life, so we're good now.
There you go.
Now I'm just a French Hawaiian that loves gumbo.
Hey, there you go, man. Very eclectic creature, man. Tonight's special, man, for a lot of reasons, per usual. It's International Women's Day, and we want to, yeah. So we're gonna celebrate that in a very special way with our very distinguished guest tonight, who happens to be one of the greatest tap dancers in the world, man. She was like trained up by some unbelievable people like Gregory Hines, who we all know, and so we're gonna get into that in just a second. But before we do, I want to talk about something that we got going on. That if you got a little kid, 15 to 23, them still kids, right?
Man, look, I'm 34. I'm still a kid.
Okay, there you go. We have through Second Line Arts Collective, we have a summer camp where we focus on music business, and we want you guys to check it out. It's called Sanaa Music Workshop, and it is from, correct me if I'm wrong, June 14th through June 25th, right, Greg?
That's right. So this is actually a very, very monumental year for us because this is our 5th year of camp. Hey. So for those of you who've been keeping up with the progress of Second Line Arts over the last couple of years, we started this program 5 summers ago with our summer camp, the Sanaa Music Workshop. So we're like super excited that, first of all, we're so excited that we're still here 5 years later, but considering everything that's happened, running a nonprofit is not the easiest thing in the world, but we have a pandemic and all this stuff. But man, kudos to Darrian for all the amazing programming Second Line now hosts through the through the educational programs that we've been doing in schools and the podcast, and again, the flagship program that brought us to this point, which is the Sanaa Music Workshop. Man, who you have lined up for the camp this year?
Oh man, so many people: Marquise Hill, Bria Skonberg, Scott Johnson. Man, the list goes on. And so you guys go to the website and check it out, secondlinearts.org. Go ahead and sign up, and it's pretty much free. So we got some scholarship money. Just hit us up, and we'll work it out for you, man. But let's get on to the show. How about that?
Man, it sounds wonderful. It's wonderful.
We have the one and only Michela Marino Lerman on the show tonight. Where you at, Michela?
I'm right here.
Hey.
How y'all doing?
What's up?
Yeah, we pretty good. We pretty good, man.
Yeah, you sounded good. Good.
Oh, thank you. I want to start this out. I want to start out with International Women's Day, and I'm just kind of curious, like, what does that mean to you, if anything, and how does it really affect your life? The whole women's movement.
Well, the day, I feel like the day is rather a new addition to my life. I feel like, it's been, I don't remember this like when I was in school, is what I'm trying to say. So
yeah.
It's crazy. I feel like with the advent of Facebook, like we've become aware of many more holidays.
Yeah, and like commemoration kind of days.
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is a holiday. What would you call this? It's just like an acknowledgement kind of day.
Totally.
So I definitely feel very like excited and grateful that the world has taken a moment and a pause to acknowledge women and everything women have overcome and struggled with throughout the years, and that it's a whole month-long celebration.
Absolutely.
But it's, you know, it's a new thing for me. You know, it feels like an Instagram holiday. You know, it's like something you get to post about. You know, it's cool. It's exciting. And I
So
also just, funnily enough, read something on Instagram that it was created by socialist women.
okay.
So it's now kind of against what it was originally created for, because now it's becoming kind of like a corporate holiday, like, you know, like women's skincare products give you like 20% off on International Women's Day, and you know, it's like, don't celebrate girl bosses and like corporate, you know, corporate women. And it,
Mm.
I don't know, I find it sad that something that's created, you know, to celebrate women now already has this divisive nature
We
to
have
it.
we have a rift in it already.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so it's interesting. I guess everything comes with this, you know, binary sides of it.
Right. Well, isn't every American holiday like that? You know what I mean?
You
Like
said it.
Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Like what are these
yeah,
holidays? Easter? Like what is that? What does it even
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm sorry. This kind of reminded me of this weird thing, but like the thing is, the times change too, and like a lot of times we have these holidays or these days of remembrance, and they come to mean something new as we move forward through time, and
Yeah,
Right.
what it meant 40 years ago is not what it means today, and
yeah.
but I guess
They're
that
ever evolving,
yeah.
ever
So
evolving things. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just really curious because I think we're in a time in our society where women's rights and equity are on the forefronts of people's minds. Like people are aware that
Mhm.
we don't get paid the same, and you guys are, or we all are trying to fight to bring everything even ground so that we can all
Yeah.
have a certain level of success. And that's kind of why I asked you the question. And I'm curious if that resonates in your career at all.
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, you know, I got war stories, you
Let's hear
know,
it. Give me one.
about, oh no, I can't even. I can't even, you know, just times when I found out I was getting paid less than other people in the band. So many things like that, you know, being treated differently when it comes time to contract negotiations and things like
Okay.
that. And then of course, you know, having to enter a bandstand, you know, that's male dominated, and navigating sexual advances,
Mhm.
navigating intimidation tactics, you know, because I'm already coming on, you know, the stage with the deck stacked against me, so to speak. I do something different, you know, especially when I'm in a jazz form and setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I'm doing a jazz gig, and you know, definitely when I was much younger and going to a lot more sessions and stuff, you know, it's really intimidating to go up there, one as a tap dancer and two as a woman in these very male dominated situations, and try to be taken seriously. And, you know, having little angels along the way to kind of pave the way and open up some obstacles. You know, Roy was one of those people that
Oh wow.
just carved a space in a lot of those late night small sessions where, you know, if I tried to jump up there, I'd get yelled at, or, you know, just belittled or whatever. So, you know, it's it's still happening, you
Hmm.
know, as we all know, with everything, you know. racism is real, sexism is real. It's not going away. It's fabulous that we're all having conversations and spreading awareness. I saw another thing on the gram right before I got here. Oh no, it was a New York Times article that said, police officers were dancing at the Black Lives Matter rallies this summer, but protesting against taking down Confederate statues in the winter. And then those same police officers are also some of the people that stormed the Capitol building.
Right.
So it seems like just the whole world is having a complete identity crisis and really dealing with deep insecurities and stuff. And, I just pray for everybody. I just pray for everybody. I pray for everybody to have patience and compassion and empathy towards each other. And, it always just boggles my mind that people can't empathize that everybody is having this human experience out here. And we're all dealing with whatever we're dealing with. And why can't we be more compassionate towards one another? So, it's a weird time, and I often look at it as like it's a dawning, like we're in the sunrise, like people are starting to become aware of things, but it's not full daylight yet. We're not fully enlightened yet. And that's a weird time to be in. That climb up the steep mountain.
Yeah. It's crazy because it's I guess half the world is still sleeping, the other half is kind of waking up. Everyone's some people are morning people, some people don't wake up till 1.
Exactly.
So we gotta navigate all that.
Yeah.
Man, you were kind of touching about, the challenges that you had kind of like being on the bandstand and working. I just want to kind of like fill everyone in. Back before COVID, we used to have gigs and we used to be out late at night, hanging at clubs and, y'all laughing. I don't know. Someone might listen to this in a couple of weeks, a couple of months and be like, why don't they have gigs anymore? I don't get it. But I think again, like speaking about just kind of harassment in the workplace and things like that, I'm sure plenty of women go through those experiences no matter the field. But I think it must be especially challenging as an artist, especially a jazz musician / dancer. And we're up late at night. We don't start work until 9:30 at night. We go home at 2. And I was just wondering maybe if you could offer some advice to maybe the young women listening on how to navigate those types of situations, especially when maybe you find yourself traveling with all men or hanging at a club late at night when you're the only woman there. And then maybe also what kind of advice you give to men in those situations.
Oh my goodness. That is such a good question. Well, to the young women, I mean, the young women, I feel like I'm learning from the young women these days. They're teaching me things that maybe I was carrying, that I wasn't aware that I was carrying, that now I'm like, oh man, that's a thing. That's really a thing. So I first and foremost want to say that I'm deeply inspired by where many young women are at these days. But what I would say to them is to just continue to be unapologetically themselves, no matter what situation. Call it out, say it, do what you need to do. Do not be intimidated by anybody or anything in any situation. It's unnecessary. And the only way forward is through it, So that's what I say to the young ladies. And then the young men, young men should be attending things that address women's issues if they want to be enlightened. A lot of these events that are geared for women, or speaking on women's issues are often attended by the women who experience the problems. And we know it because we are living it. So, I just hope that more young men take it upon themselves to learn. I was speaking to a friend. It's so funny how all these things intersect too. I was speaking to a friend of mine, Ayadeli Cassell, another wonderful tap dancer, and she was speaking on racism, and she was saying, if you can look up a recipe on Google, you can look up, the information about how to be a better person. And the same goes with any ism. If you can like go on Amazon and order, like a new hair dryer or something, you can go on Google and you can find the resources and learn a thing or two. So, I hope that young men take it upon themselves to find out what they need to do to create a better environment for everybody, because it's the universal golden rule. Like, each one teach one. If we all are good, if we're all good, then we can all move up. We all have to work together.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. I got one rule that helps me be a respectable man. And it's just really simple. Like, if you don't want somebody saying it to your mother or your sister, then don't say it, don't do it.
Yeah. And do you want someone saying or doing something to you as well?
Yeah. Well, you can't. Some of these dudes out here, you gotta.
You gotta push it a little harder. I get it. They're a little, they're ratchet. They
right.
Maybe they do want somebody to do some of the things they're saying.
Exactly. Well, but let's switch gears to the dance.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of curious, like, how does a person get into tap dancing in the modern era of life? It's not 1932, and that's with all due respect, because it's the same thing with us jazz musicians.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's the exact same situation, but I mean, as you know, there's a thriving jazz scene full of people of all ages, sexes, creeds, and colors. There's everybody's out here playing music at this point. So I got into tap dance because I saw Gregory Hines in the movie Tap, and I just was like, this is it. My mom, she loved old films, so I watched a lot of like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and classic golden era Hollywood stuff. But it wasn't until I saw Gregory that it really clicked for me that this was a whole other thing than what was in those classic films. And I think the thing that I didn't know at the time, I was 5 years old, but what was so different was the improvisation, and the freedom of that. I was so attracted to that and really wanted to learn it. So I kept on it. My mom and my dad, like, please, I want to take lessons. And we wound up at this place called Woodpeckers, which was an all tap dance studio that was in Soho. And the place was, it was geared specifically towards, jazz, rhythm, tap dancing. It was not musical theater, Broadway type stuff. It was what Gregory was doing and others. And from the very moment we were in there, I started meeting some of these masters and some of these legends, and they would be there every time I would go take class. Somebody would be practicing, somebody would be hanging out, somebody would be, talking smack in the office or whatever. You know, somebody was always around that would be a legend. You know, just like a, you know, just like the GOAT of whatever. So so I was immersed in the culture right away. And that's what's kept me in it for this long. Because it's really a culture.
Yeah.
It's and it's really, honestly, it's thriving. You know, of course, as a tap dancer, I see it. There are so many incredible people doing it right now all over the world and in many different ways, and creating festivals and performance opportunities and stuff. I mean, of course it could be more. It's still got a long way to go, but it's happening.
All right. Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, my imagination was just running just then because I think, you know, before time, like even before the before time, there was just so much community, so much more community in New York City, in every city, more so than exists now. I feel like life is so hard now that we just kind of like, okay, man, you know, it's kind of hard to pull people in and really like get to know them. Like you said, people are just hanging out at the studio, you know, like that doesn't really, I don't just go to some studio and just hang out. I'm there for a purpose, you know.
I know.
So the times have really changed.
They have. I tell that to my students all the time. You know, they're like, what was it like learning from this person? What was it like learning from that person? I'd be like, you know, it really wasn't like up in the dance studio getting the classes and the, you know, and the 5, 6, 7, 8, here's this step, here's that step. It was the hang, you know, so much of what I learned was from the hang and the culture and all of that. So it's a lifestyle. It's not just a thing you learn in a class, you know.
That might be one of the most important parts of this entire experience, because it's like, man, you can immediately tell, you like, man, where are you from? Like the Antarctica? Like, because you don't know how to hang.
Exactly.
You've been shedding with penguins all week, or what's going on? So I was just wondering, like again, like, you know, as far as like a jazz musician goes, you know, we have like, I mean, you know, again, everyone takes their own path, but you know, there's so many programs like high school conservatories and college programs that are geared towards that. But like as a tap dancer, what does I don't know, is there like, what does the schooling look like for mastering?
That is an excellent question, because it is something I'm very passionate about and hope to change in the future, because there is literally there is next to nothing available in terms of any higher education for tap dancing. No dance programs acknowledge tap dance as an art form that is worthy of being a part of their dance curriculum. If it's there, it's an elective, it's a club, it's a side thing. And most of the time, if it's there, it is musical theater oriented, because it's a college dance program. And there's one school in Oklahoma City that you can go to study to be a tap dancer, but again, it is a more musical theater oriented thing. And you know, it's just like, if you're from New York City, why are you gonna go to Oklahoma City to learn how to tap dance? You know what I'm saying? You're from New York.
It's crazy, right?
So it's I think it's a tragedy. I think it's it's the worst. It's I didn't go to college for this reason. I thought I was like, you know, the biggest revolutionary rebel. Like, I'm not going because they don't accept what I do. No one cared. Only I cared. But whatever difference it made, it was it's been a thing for me. It's been a thing that I've wanted to do. I would love to speak to someone at Juilliard or some place like that, because particularly Juilliard, because tap can be kind of cross between the dance and the jazz programs. There can be kind of a hybrid program created for it, and that's what's so amazing. A place like the New School would be great. Any of these colleges should have tap dance be included in their curriculums, because it's an American art form. It was born here out of the struggles, and it's clearly the reason why it's not acknowledged the way it has.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of the burden tap has carried through the years, because it does have it has its roots in pain. It has its roots in slavery. It has its roots in the drums being taken away in 1739, and then following that, deep climb up the ladder, then it lands in minstrelsy, and becomes a gimmicky kind of thing. And these incredible artists, were reduced to minstrelsy and blackface, and that's the only records we have of the beginnings of this art form. And people just don't want to touch stuff like that. And it has been detrimental to so many young people to not have a place to go and be in college or university and experience that with their tap dancing. It just it's very sad.
Yeah. It's interesting that the American education system will, like you're saying, they're shunning this American art form because of its history, and I feel like even if they didn't shun it, they would just ignore that history, and they would find some way to whitewash it and be like, I can and like, everything was great and people were tap dancing, it was fun, that's what they do with jazz, and that's why some people have like this hero thing happening in jazz, that you worship a heroin addict. Like, you forget about that part. Like, we need to tell the whole story
and so much of those struggles inform people's artistry. I mean, what you're feeling when you hear Charlie Parker or listen to Billie Holiday is their experience interpreted through the music. And and that doesn't necessarily mean that only pain and struggle drives that, but in those instances, that's what's happening. And I just I get so frustrated when I enter a space with either young musicians or young dancers that are so consumed with just like, they like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And it's like, it's my experience that is informing the thing that you're feeling inside of you that you want to recreate. It is not a step. It is not a note. It is not a lick. It's not it's not a shtick. It's not any of that. It's you take on. Sorry, I'm getting another phone call. Okay, we're back. It's so much deeper than that. And that's also scary when you do take these art forms and then insert them into higher learning experiences like in universities and colleges, because then it becomes a syllabus and a strategic kind of learning process, and it gets processed like food gets processed, and it loses all its nutrients and stuff, so that it could be packaged and sold and preserved. So it's one of those complicated things, you know. It's like you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. But it's yeah, that's it. I'll leave it there.
It's such an important thing to acknowledge, though. It's again, it's just like, you know, like we have a very complex history, and not all of it is you know, wine and roses and things like that. There is a lot of pain and hardship, and there's a lot of great things that happen too. But it's like, you know, you can't just, you know, condense a story down into just the positive things, because you have to acknowledge the suffering and the pain and the reality of what was going on back, you know, back in the day. And you know, at some point it'll be back today. You know, people will be looking back at today and be like, oh, they had a great time on COVID. Everyone had the internet and whatever the shit.
Listen, let's why don't we go ahead and play a little excerpt of your work, and let the people here see what you got going. How about that?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, y'all. There you go, right there. kind of remind me of myself, you know. Shoot, back in the day, they used to call me a hoofer, you know. Yeah, with my socks on, just right to the sidewalk. Just.
Oh, you weren't hoofing that, man. Oh, you hoofing something. Yeah, that's incredible. Hey, Michela, you were kind of talking about the difference between like learning tap in like a Broadway type musical theater environment. Like, could you talk about kind of like what's the difference between those two styles, and like what's the difference between
Yeah.
doing a show and playing with Winton?
It's a totally different experience, you know. I mean, most musical theater Broadway stuff is very basic level tap dancing, but
talking shit.
merged
Damn.
no, not necessarily. But merged with ballet upper body. So it's kind of this merging of the two styles.
Oh, okay.
So it focuses, it has a different focus point. You know, it's a more visual experience with some sound. And tap dance, rhythm and jazz tap dance is the focus is more on the other side, the sound. And there are lots of tap dancers who choose to incorporate upper body presentation with their improvisational or jazz rhythm tap dancing. But the main focus is the sound and the rhythm and the intricacy of the footwork. So that's the main difference. And then if you really want to get deeper into it, you know, there's a ongoing, lifelong, controversial conversation in tap dance about is it Irish? Is it African? Is it this? Is it that? And this is a split point where you can really see the influences of the two different strains. Because the musical theater stuff definitely has a more Irish approach with a stiffer upper body. If you've ever seen Riverdance, you know, it's much more of a you know, military style thing with precision. And then of course rhythm and jazz tap dancing has a lot more of an African sensibility of rhythm and polyrhythms and all of that. So that's another way to kind of look at the differences as well.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that there was the two kind of like two lineages coming together, like the African.
Oh man,
I had never heard that before.
It is a hot topic these days in the tap dance world. It is really, man, is it an issue? You know, it's a real issue, and there's a lot of division over this issue at this time, and it's rough and it's sad and it's, you know, and it's complicated because, you know, the way I look at it, you know, I definitely do think that there was exchanges going on, you know, at the time this was happening. Irish people, although they were not stolen and captured from Ireland and brought to America, they were not in a good predicament. They were indentured servants. They were not, you know, they were not at the top of the food chain either. So they were commingling at the time. And, you know, there's just so much of the rhythm and a lot of the movement and the steps is African, but then, you know, the shoes with the metal on the bottom, that's clearly coming from the more Irish traditions. They had these shoes. So, you know, I see the cohabitation of these two artistic components intertwining. But then you talk about why, and then you talk about the drums being outlawed, and that's a real pinpoint situation where you have to say this art form was created specifically because these drums were taken away. Then you have to look at also what happened after all of this. You know, what happened? Those very same Irish people who were cohabitating and commingling with African people at the time got their little ticket out, so to speak, of appropriating white culture, and their ticket out was to make fun of the very same Black folks that they're living with and commingling with and creating art forms with. And then we get minstrelsy and blackface directly out of this experience. So that's another red flag we have to kind of bring up and talk about. So for me, and this is my personal opinion, and you know, I don't know if I'm gonna get shot by a tap dancer after I say this, but but I really do.
Those Irish
I
people.
see all this, and it's complex. You know, I see this complex relationship.
Yeah.
And just because it's complex, you can't just say one doesn't exist without the other. You know, it's complex. So that's how I choose to view it. But my goodness, you know, ask a couple tap dancers these questions, you'll get a whole bunch of answers and feelings and stuff. So it's intense. It's intense.
Now, as far as the styles go, like, would you say, like, again, like, is there any improvisation in like Irish step dancing, or is that like all choreographed?
That is, I've never experienced it. I've never really seen it. I've heard about one Irish tradition where they do something in a circle and they kind of exchange with each other. But generally speaking, it is not an improvisational thing. And right there, again, you get that difference and separation of the streams. What was I just gonna say? Oh yeah, I did. I when I was like 19 or something, I auditioned and got in this kind of bootleg Lord of the Dance show, and so it was Irish dancing, and there was a little tap dance section, and I became friendly with some of the Irish dancers, and they were so intrigued and amazed specifically by the improvisational aspect, you know, and by the more relaxed body. And they were frustrated that they always had to be like this stiff, straight up kind of thing. So that to me said a lot. You know, they found freedom in tap dancing, which clearly shows you that maybe they're related, but they are different art forms.
Absolutely. Michela, we're coming to the end, but there's a couple things I want to talk about before we go. And one of them is your band.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like I watched the video of you talking about your band, and something resonated with me where you said that your band was your family. And the reason why it resonated with me is because I'm originally from Mississippi. And so I don't have family here in the Northeast. So my friends are my family. And so when I see you guys performing and you say you guys eat together and this and that, and you fight and you make up, blah, 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 blah. Like what is that? What is that all about? And how does that enhance the music that you guys and dance that you guys create together?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, it's that trust, you know, it's establishing that trust. Is it what we were talking about earlier too? So much of what you learn is off the bandstand or out of the classroom, and so much a part of just hang, you know? And you know, a lot of this comes out of, you know, my band and the Moenzo and the Shakes, you know, it's you know, they're cousins, they're very closely related.
Your band is called Love Movement.
My band is called Love Movement. Yes. Yeah. So there was a point in time where when I first met Michael Moenzo, and after the late night sessions he used to host at Dizzy's, he and several of the musicians would come over to my house, and we would listen to music, or and hang out and cook and drink a little bit, and just hang out, and that became kind of a ritual. We started doing it every night, and it was a wild time.
Go.
And everybody would come over pretty much every night after our gigs, and we would listen to music, and we would cook, and we would talk about our issues and our stuff, and it really developed into this family like situation. And so much of what we do on the bandstand is an extension of that, and knowing where someone's at, being sensitive to that, choosing music that reflects where people are at, and or where we want to go. Maybe we're not in the place we want to be, and we all need to collectively go somewhere else and feel a different vibe. All of that is just, it's the most important stuff. That's the stuff that people fall in love with when they're watching a musician or a dancer, or again, it's the experience. You're falling in love, you're being moved, you're being touched in your spirit by their spirit and their soul and where they're at. Everybody has the same tools. Everybody has the same notes, the same scales, the same steps, the same toes and heels. Everybody has the same tools. And what you're getting is that individual and that individual's spirit. And when you get a group of people that are vibrating together on that level, it's very powerful.
Absolutely. I like that.
That's a beautiful thing right there. To be able to play music and create art with people you love and trust. That's the dream right there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Y'all know what Elvin Jones said when somebody asked him about Coltrane and how they got there. He said, "You got to be willing to die for a motherfucker."
Yeah.
That's the truth.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Dig it. It's we have come to that time. It is time for us to say goodbye. But before we go, I do want to give you an opportunity to tell the people how to link with you, how to buy all your stuff. Maybe you got your own signature tap shoe. I don't know.
Oh, Lord, I don't have any merch. I am the worst at that, but it's coming. It's coming.
Okay.
But I have my website, michelataps.com. And that's also my Instagram handle, Michela Taps. And that's also my Facebook artist page, facebook.com/Michela Taps. So you can find me anywhere there. And also, for anybody listening, stay tuned to my Instagram, because I will be doing a live stream performance at Seeds in Brooklyn. That's a little club that's curated by Joel Ross. So we'll be there March 16th with my smaller group, Taremini, which is just myself, Russell Hall, Matisse Picard, 2 Geminis and a Taurus, Taremini. And then on April 8th, I'll be at Smalls as well with my band. So both those gigs will be live streams. And then at Smalls, people can actually come in the flesh if they'd like. On April 8th, it is open.
There you go. So y'all dig it. Go to all those places. Michela Taps. You can just Google that, put it in anything, and something's gonna come
you'll find me.
Yeah. And yo, DM Michela about this signature tap shoe, because she need to get that out, because
that's so killing.
We ready for it,
Yes. I'm ready for it too. For all the reasons. I'm ready for that paycheck.
Hey.
Michaela,
yo,
thank you so much for having you on. It's been
Thank
a
you. Thank you
privilege
for
getting a
having me.
chance to talk to you. Been following your career for on the internet and things like down here in New Orleans. So it's been a great opportunity to hang with you a little bit.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I can't wait to come to New Orleans in the near future.
Man, look, everyone else, all the New York cats are moving down here.
I know.
Oh man, like everywhere I go, there's like a new. I think Julian Lee just moved down here or something. I mean, I'm not throwing him out there, but I'm just every day. I'm like, what you doing out here? Who are you?
Yeah.
I don't live here.
Yeah.
That's what's up. All right, y'all. My name is Darrian Douglas.
And I'm Gregory Agid.
This is the Working Mars Project. We'll catch y'all next time.